Hello, and welcome back to the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast. I am your host, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg. My guest this week is my pal, Jade Alectra, and I'm going to tell you all about that. But first, my lawyer has suggested that I read this to you. This podcast contains some extra sensitive topics, and I want to be clear about whose opinions we are talking about here and whose choice it was to discuss them. To start, the views and opinions expressed by Jade Alectra do not reflect any policy, position, or views of Long Distance Love Bombs LLC, the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast, or me, Dr. Jeremy Goldberg. Neither I nor Long Distance Love Bombs LLC endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information mentioned in this podcast. Instead, the content provided by any podcast guest, including Jade Alectra, is only their opinion. The podcast guests are not compelled or required to discuss or disclose any specific information on the podcast, and anything discussed here is at the sole discretion of the guest. In other words, the information and discussions on this podcast are totally voluntary. And just to be clear, by listening to this podcast, you agree that the Long Distance Love Bombs podcast and the LLC and me, Jeremy Goldberg, are not responsible for any content herein and shall not be held responsible or liable for hosting the podcast or any claims or damages arising therewith. Any content provided by any guest is only their opinion. It is not intended to malign any group, person, business, individual, anyone, or anything. I do not condone, endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented are of the guest alone. So, now that that's over, Jade Alectra, my good pal, has come back on the podcast. We spent about 2 hours on the side of the road in Topanga, California, sitting in my van and having a conversation about several of the experiences that she has lived through over the last year or so. Much of her story is very personal. Much of the conversation is driven by her. I kind of felt like when you have a water balloon and you kind of take a pin and you prick it and water just squirts out indefinitely, this flowing constant stream. That's kind of what it felt like for this conversation. And I mean that in the most loving, gentle, compassionate way possible. I feel like Jade has lived through a lot over the last year, several lifetimes worth of experiences, different identities, different countries, different emotions, etc. And I was attempting to give her a safe space to talk and to present her side of the story and to share her truth with my audience. And I love her for that. And so some of the conversation will tackle triggering concepts, triggering and activating stories, topics, etc. So consider this your warning of sorts, that some of the stuff that we discuss is quite heavy in nature. And it gets deep. And those of you that know and love and follow Jade already understand and respect her commitment to truth and integrity. And this conversation is powerful evidence of a woman that lives in a meaningful way the ideals and values that she deeply believes in. So, with that said, here is my pal Jade Alectra talking about the last year of her life, specifically with respect to a few people and a few incidents and the impacts that our choices ultimately have on us. And also what we can do in the face of those impacts. how we can begin to make new choices, and how we can stand up for what we believe in and speak our heart and share our truth with the world. I really adore Jade. She is rough and raw and fragile and strong and very much alive. I consider her to be an inspiring and admirable human being. She has taught me a lot about how to show up in the world, especially with a platform and a following that looks to us and reads our work. And yeah, she's just, she's one of the good ones in my opinion. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation with my friend, Jade Alectra. All right, we're recording.
Okay.
I'm getting settled.
I'm getting nervous.
We're in my van on the side of the road.
Call her by her name.
In Topanga, Vanny. And you are Jade Alectra.
I am, so they tell me.
This is the long-awaited sequel.
It is. It's been like 2 years, I think.
You were on there 2 years.
But I refused to do it without being in person.
I know you did.
I know.
Various times.
Yeah.
And still the most downloaded episode I've ever done.
Oh my God. I mean, it's like number 2 on my link tree on my Instagram because I'm so proud of it. So thank you for being just a magical human and giving me that space.
And I told you, we just went to lunch, and I told you, just take my platform, take the microphone and say whatever the heck you want to say. And I mean that.
I know you do. That's why I reached out to you.
And you're going to say some stuff that you haven't said before.
I am.
Ever. And about something traumatic that happened to you. And so I just want you to know, like, this is completely safe. There's no expectations on my part. I've got your back. I love you. And however this goes or doesn't go is completely fine. You don't have to say anything you don't want to say. And you could say truly whatever the fuck you want to say.
Oh, dangerous.
It's all good.
Scary. Yeah. Beautiful.
But stepping back, for those who have no idea who the heck you are, and they're like, what's going on?
Wait, what? Jade and trauma. Like,
that sounds very dramatic as an introduction. Like, what's the quick...
About who I am?
Yeah, like, who are you?
Oh, gosh. Funny time to ask that question. My name is Jade Alectra. I'm a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, rehab, addiction specialist teacher. Although teacher has been an interesting word as of late. I don't really like to use that. I have amazing friends. I really am just, it's hard to give this instruction or introduction because I just feel like I'm putting my life back together.
You're like kind of one wing out of the cocoon.
Is
that fair?
Yeah.
And you've realized that you were in a cocoon.
I didn't even know. Yeah. I thought it, yeah. That's a really
you're
nice.
Like, I'm a butterfly hanging out with butterflies. And then you're like, oh, fuck, I'm in a cocoon.
I'm in a wolf's den.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where do we begin to even tell this story?
Well, I know. I was like, how do we even launch into this? But I want to start with saying this is not a story I want to share. This is not a story I'm proud to share. This is not something that I would ever dream of podcasting about. Like, usually I feel like you go on and you have something amazing to talk about and something exciting to say, and I have the opposite. But I have some things to square with in my life. And I reached out to you when I didn't know what else to do, and you were immediate yes. And this is like a very vulnerable and very touchy topic. So the fact that you were even able to say yes to this is I don't even have words for you. So thank you. And also, this is not what I expected for our round 2. Like, I really thought I'd have some cool book or I'd have some amazing relationships, some like redemption story. But if you go back and listen, I feel like it's kind of like, wow, where did it all go wrong? So I guess I want to start where it began, I guess would be
start at the
profound.
That's good.
Man, I can just pick, I guess.
Do you want me to guide?
Well, I'll start and you can kind of like take the lead or whatever happens. So when I was on your podcast last, I had this relationship that it just ended, I believe. And I don't know which point it ended because we ended like 6 or 7 more times after that. And it just never worked. We tried so many different things in so many different ways. And I literally can there was this Tony Robbins quote one time where he said, like, this guy's like, I just can't figure out how to leave my wife. And he's like, I want to divorce her, but I don't know what to do. And he was like, can you say that you honestly did everything in your power? And he was like, no. He's like, well, that's why you're having trouble. But I can say honestly that like I did everything and more in my power until I had none of it left. And that's when trouble finds you, when you've like completely abandoned yourself. And what I realize now looking back is the only thing that can trump truth is belief. And it can be so dangerous to make someone else's heart your compass when you don't really know what's in there. And in general, now I've really had to look at my choices over my entire life. And this experience that I recently went through forced me, like my friend Richard says, he's like, people don't want to know that they're wrong. So they just kind of sit in this murkiness and they don't ever dare go find out, because then they have to do something about it. And now I have to do something about it. I have to square up to myself and how I've let people down. And they don't even know I've let them down yet. Some people do, like you had sniffed this out.
Yeah.
So it's so ironic that we're having this call, because I was vehemently disagreeing with you when you sent me a message. And I was like, you're full of shit. I mean, I didn't say that, but like, I was like, why didn't you come for me when I was actually in trouble? And I was in so much trouble I didn't even know when you reached out. So I think, yeah.
So maybe we can start there. So I sent you a message because you had been starting to get involved with a person.
Do you remember how like soon that was that you sent me that message?
No, I sent you a screenshot the other day.
I know. I can't remember.
You hadn't gone to wherever you went.
Really?
Yeah. It was before that.
No way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
So you were getting involved with a person who has a platform, and I'd never heard of this person.
Should we not say his name? It's up to you.
I don't care.
I don't care either. Yeah, it is.
You're gonna. I don't actually know his last name, so.
Bentinho Massaro.
Yeah.
And
I checked him out, and I was like, something doesn't sit right with me.
Did you Google, or were you just going off the vibe of his Instagram?
Yeah. I watched like 2 videos, and I was like, something felt off. And then I Googled his name and like found some stuff. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And so I messaged you and said, hey, my spidey senses are going.
That's exactly how you said it.
My spidey senses are tingling. I said something like, keep an eye on your truth. And I know you will, but like, I need to say that to you. Right.
Yeah.
And then I reached out to 2 of our mutual friends and basically said, has Jade joined a cult? What the fuck is going on? And then we had a dialogue about just remaining supportive and accepting.
Well, I kind of came at you because I was like, look, I was in a pretty bad space before with something else. And you, where were you? Like, essentially, because at that point, the problem with a cult is you don't know you're in one.
Right.
And so when you came at me like that, I was like very protective of him and very protective of everyone there.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
Yeah. And I was like...
That was when you were there.
Yeah. Though. And right. And I was just like...
he's the most loving, kindest, beautiful, sweetest soul I've ever met. And I was like, oh, fuck. She's...
hooked.
She's hooked.
Hooked and at the bottom of the ocean, unsure, like literally not seeing that my air was leaving my body.
So so stepping back, you basically, there's a helicopter buzzing around us if you hear something.
LA's nuts right now.
Yeah. So you met this dude, and then you got involved back and forth, and then you went to live with him.
So, no. Well, the story begins at August of last year, and I and my ex-boyfriend were separated, and I was devastated as usual and really upset and sad and just like, fuck, like maybe this is the end. So I went to see this tarot reader. Always a great idea when you're in pain.
Yeah.
So I went to this tarot reader that my friend recommended. And this woman said, she pulled all these cards out in front of me, and she, knowing nothing about me, was like, there's a man from your past that's going to come back. And I was like, already she's wrong, because like my ex would never, it was just not going to come back. Yeah. And she's like, he's going to come back. And if you stay aloof from him and let him heal and you heal, then in December he'll be healed and ready to be with you. And I was like, wow, like that's crazy. And then, but we weren't talking at this point. And then she said, but in December, you're going to meet another man. And this other man is not your soulmate, but he's doing really powerful work in the world. And you together will do powerful work for the world. And he's good for you. And it was just a wild distinction. I've never even had someone say something about the world and the work. It was really weird. So I just took that with a grain of salt. And she said he's going to be older than your ex. And I was like, okay, really weird. things, but all right. So I was on this app called Raya. It's like this dating app. And at the same time, in like September, my ex reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm like, we just wanted to see where each other were at and dip in. But like, we were just it just fell back into each other so fast. So I didn't really listen to her advice. Like, I'm an all or nothing, for better and for oftentimes worse, I'm finding. But we started, rekindling, and it wasn't going well. And then in December, I got a message from Bentinho and Corey, which is one of his best girlfriends out there. And they were like, hey, we'd love to have you come join us out in Ecuador. You can't tell anyone where you're going. You have to sign an NDA for up to $300K. Like, if you say anything about where we are, or what you're doing, or what's happening, we can sue you for up to $300,000. So that made me nervous. And I was like, oh my God, like, why would I have to sign something to meet someone? But I also know, quite a bit of celebrities. And I know that they go through so much trauma and traumatic things from people just wanting to infiltrate and get to know them. So I kept an open mind with it, but that definitely scared me away initially. And she's like, Bentinho wants to meet you, and just come join our community, our community for 30 days. And I was like, wow, that's way too long. I cannot go see someone I've never met before. And I had seen some warning signs, and actually I'd been following him for a few years, but I wasn't really interested until what I realized now, backtracking, his ex-girlfriend, Jocelyn Dare, had gone into his sphere, and like they had done this transmission online on YouTube, and I felt it with my whole soul. Like, but I look back, he didn't speak. It was her. Like, I felt her magnetism and magic, and I just started paying attention, and what their relationship looked beautiful online, like lavish trips, and but they were doing good. Like, they were doing these retreats and just things that I was already doing myself. So I was still working things out with my ex, and it was like Christmas time, and it just had gotten really bad. And I also, part of this is hard because I've never told anyone about that. Like, I think everyone online kind of thinks that we were perfect. And I really did think that, again, my belief trumped truth, what was in front of me and what was unfolding. And yeah, so
Can you say more about that belief trumped truth? So
yeah.
My interpretation of that is that you had this deeper knowing or a deeper wisdom that was like, hey, this isn't quite right.
Opposite.
Okay. And then you talked yourself into it. You're suggesting that.
So when we met, I met him once, and then I started having visions of him in meditations, which I never have very often. And I had this vision of one time that my grandma had gotten me these, those little dolls that you put together with wood. Yeah, they like get smaller and smaller and smaller. She'd gotten me those since I was little, and I had this vision in yoga where my ex-boyfriend was I was dating this guy at the time, like lightly, and his face was on the top of the doll in Shavasana, and then it opened, and Danny, my ex, his face was on the doll, and then it kept going really fast, and then it was my face at the end. But I just kept, and I had another vision of us, like 2 visions of us getting married, and I was just like, this is so weird. We weren't even really talking at the time. So our first date was so magical. My belly and my heart and my soul like locked into that feeling, and was like, just crazy things had happened, and I just believed from that moment forward, no matter what you put in front of me, no matter what kind of fights we had or what experiences we had, I just had this deeper belief that I don't know. It's like, I'm still kind of grappling with that, because I look back at my posts, and it was true for me in that moment. Like, what I was saying was true, but it doesn't match what was happening. So that really set me up for being like, I gave everything to trying to make that work. I started losing the way I talked, and we had disagreements about how I showed up in the world, and those kind of chipped away at who I became. Like, I started losing just my fire and my truth, and like my sturdy ground and my intuition.
Yeah,
I had to keep shoving it down.
So you gave everything, including your own identity,
yes,
your sense of self,
right?
Like everything. You lost your anchor. You were untethered.
You were
just in the seas.
Yeah.
Right.
And I realized the other day I wrote this line, because I stopped being able to write for a really long time, and it's kind of coming back. I wrote this line that said, I exchanged my power for love, but I never actually even received the love. So it was like double depleting.
Right.
And then I was left with like really nothing. And I'm not here to shit on him or like do anything other than speak the truth, because at this point I just can't keep splintering off and holding on to people's like images and whatnot.
So is it fair to say just at that time you had been going through a relationship, there was some heartache, you were feeling vulnerable and fragile and a little bit lost?
I would say yes, but I would also say, there's this point when you've just been broken so far that you're like, I'm not even vulnerable, I'm just dead or like raw or just numb. Yeah,
and
just
empty.
Yeah, like empty. I felt empty, but I'm still trying to like fight for it and still trying to like show up for it.
And so that's when this invitation out of the blue came. And so that's the state that you were in. And so suddenly it's like, oh, here's an escape, here's an opportunity, here's something different.
Yeah, but I was actually like, oddly enough, my stomach was like, I don't think so, Jade. But my friends had just watched me kind of deteriorate for so long that they were like, a couple of my girlfriends were like, wow, I think maybe you might have an awakening there. It'll be something different. They just wanted me to change what I was doing. And then my ex actually said, I think he'll actually teach you something. I think maybe this actually might. Yeah, and it's true. It did. Yeah. That did happen.
But to me, that's like an example of the belief trumping the truth, where your truth was like, I don't know.
Right.
This doesn't feel right.
Right.
And then you talked yourself into it based
several
on
times.
Others' opinions and others' perspectives. Right. So your belief trumped your own truth there.
I also just didn't know what to do because I felt like I needed something to shift. And it's really hard for me to find a teacher that I look up to enough to be like, hey, here, handle me. Go in and change some wires or whatnot. But I had seen him do some powerful work, what seemed like powerful work. And
sure, let's give it a try.
Yeah. But I put off buying the ticket, and I knew that if I went with him, that me and my ex were going to be done forever. And I was always afraid of closing that door all the way. So every time we broke up, I'd like leave the back door open kind of thing. So I knew that this would change, and I really had to evaluate until I got to a point where I was like, I just have to fucking change something. So I feel like me and my ex, I had like a meth problem. I call it this. Like I said this the other day, and someone's like, do you have a meth problem? I'm like, no, it's the equivalent of having like a meth problem. And then to get over that, I started using like
she was your drug. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Like we had like an addiction to each other, and it was like not healthy. And in order to get over that, I started doing, I don't even know what's words, like black tar heroin, like I don't know. It just, I took on a different substance that's worse. And oftentimes people try and get off things and they switch it out for something far greater that causes them more pain.
Or more benign. So like a heroin addict may become addicted to cigarettes, for example.
But it went the opposite direction.
Right.
So it got worse.
Right.
But yeah,
okay.
I'm reading that right. But yeah, so I didn't realize I was doing that at the time. But when I realized kind of like we were hitting this point of no return, I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to book a ticket. So I went in the bedroom when I was still with him and like booked my ticket. And at first he was kind of mad, and then he's like, no, like you should go, like go be free, go see what happens, and maybe we'll just like come back around.
Yeah.
So I booked it for 7 days, and I was like very adamant I was only going to be there a week.
Yep.
And
so there's like a gigantic truck behind you.
I know. You're like looking at me like a dinosaur is coming.
Yeah, it looks.
Oh my God.
A utility tree service vehicle.
How did I even make it out here? Thank you for telling everyone exactly what kind of car that was.
Yeah.
You read
we're on the side of a road.
So. I know, we are. I'll have to post a photo when this comes out of how this is happening, what it looks like. But yeah. So you are. So I booked the ticket.
Booked a ticket.
And I'm like, okay, I'm coming for 7 days. But they were asking me like repeatedly, like, did you book your ticket? Did you book your ticket? And I was like, kind of lying because I was scared. I really couldn't tell why I was feeling so afraid.
Right. Before you'd even arrived or met them.
No.
You'd already abandoned yourself.
Yes, no. Yeah, I had already kind of given up my agency in ways. I didn't really have much to even offer at that point because I was so lost. But anyway, so then they put me, after I booked my ticket and prove I'm coming, they put me in this like chat, and after I signed the NDA, which I'm also breaking, by the way. Like this is a hard thing to do and no one's ever spoken out on him because he has this NDA against everyone else. So I could be sued for $300K, but I don't care. Like the debris that he's leaving behind is so much more important to be brought to the light. So anyhow, side note. So I had been put in this chat group, and I knew he was like a powerful character. So I didn't want to come off as like weak or small. I wanted him to respect me right off the bat and make kind of a splash because I didn't want to be taken advantage of, or I kind of had this picture that was gonna be like some sex thing, or I didn't know. I just wasn't sure. I wanted to protect myself as much as I could going into a foreign country with someone you've never met.
Yeah, you're being skeptical.
Yeah.
Right?
Just wanting to make a splash. So I went in this thing and I wrote this whole like rant because he was telling at the time someone that was posting memes. He was like, only one meme a day for you. Like that's court order or something. And I wrote this whole like, I spent like a long time crafting this thing. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can endorse this tyrannical view of things. And like, you can't be forcing Mark to not post these memes, and just kind of stood up for him. And I was joking. Yeah. And in front of the group, Ben laughed, and like everyone was kind of like laughed a little bit, but then brushed it on the rug. And the next day he sent me a private message and was like, hey, I don't know if you're quite right for our group anymore. And I want to see if like me pushing your buttons is going to be a problem. And just wrote me this whole thing of like, I don't like kind of gut checking me and kind of trying to see if he could push me. Is like, if you're sensitive, this is not the group for you. Like we're funny, we're laughter. Like my presence brings things out of people that like might be ugly and they might blame me for. And I want to see if you're going to be one of those victims and like blah, blah. So then I felt like relief in my body because I was like, oh my God, this is my way out. He's doesn't want me to go anymore. And now I can just like, oh, I tried. I showed up. I was like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I don't want to ruin your time there. No worries. Why don't we just meet another time in the future, maybe?
I'll go.
And then he was like, whoa, no, I'm not saying that. Why don't we have a FaceTime? And I was like, okay, with Corey. So I had met Corey once and she seemed amazing. And I had the FaceTime with him like 30 minutes later. I was so nervous. When we get on the FaceTime, he's just staring at me. And like they're kind of like leaning into each other and just like not saying anything and like looking. And I was like doing my best to not feel like weird because it was just an eye gaze with someone I've never met. And he was just like, it felt like he was like bearing into my soul and like looking at my energy field. And I was just like trying to appear like normal and natural and smiling, but also kind of like, oh, find something wrong with me so I don't have to go. Like, just, let's just chalk it up to a wash. But he didn't. He liked my like, I kind of was jokey and he like felt like he was looking at me like he was fascinated. So we moved forward. He was like, yeah, I really want to meet you. Like, come. So I flew to Texas and I had an apartment at the time in Marina del Rey on the water and it was beautiful. And I left that and I called Dakota, my best friend in Texas at the layover. And I was like shaking. I felt so weird. And I was like, Dakota, I think I shouldn't go. I think I should come home. And he was like, absolutely. Like, I'll come get you from the airport. Just fly home. I'll pick you up. I'll drive you home and whatever you need. And as soon as he said that, my like, I don't even know what part of me did this, but it was like kind of the permission slip gave me permission to be like, no, actually, I want to see where this leads. Like, I'm just going to go. And it felt like I was being pulled. Like my soul was just I needed to go through this thing, but I kept knowing that it was going to change me forever. And I don't know. So I just said yes. And I was like, okay, Dakota, like I can make it 7 days anywhere. Like, thank you for the permission slip. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. So I hung up on him and I flew all the way over to Quito, Ecuador. Couldn't tell anyone where I was going. None of my family or friends knew where I was because I couldn't say. And what he said that was for is like protection. And people were always trying to like sabotage his mission. So I guess I'm sabotaging the mission now, apparently. But I flew over there and this is where things started to change rapidly. And the way I put it is like I was in heaven until I was in hell. And what happens is, I mean, I don't know if I need to go into like play by play because it's so much. Yeah. But we got there and they were having some crazy party and they had all been wasted. And I guess like normally they don't get like that. Like it was like a crazy party because they had what they call like a distortion meeting or a session. So a distortion meeting or a session is when someone finds something wrong with you. For example, like maybe we're at lunch and you kind of made some like emotional comment. Then I would be like, Jeremy, I feel like something's off with you. And I'd call a session on you. And then you'd sit in front of everyone and he or all the group would pick you apart. And if you had any kind of like response or emotional reaction, it was like from your ego or you were being, one of the crazier things that he said was you were being attacked by an STS, which is a service to self entity, is what he calls it. It's derived from this teaching from Ra, I forget, the Law of One. It's like one of the things he bases his teaching around. So he would, you didn't want to be an STS, right? Like that's like the ultimate betrayal. You're betraying everyone and him at once and you can like kill him possibly. So I had just arrived after they had some big session breakthrough with one of the crew members, the inner circle. And they were all celebrating. And so I like met everyone. And then I walked up, they're like, oh, do you want to meet Bentinho? And I was like, okay. I'm like, I'm nervous. And I like walk up to his room, like, oh, come to his cigar lounge. And he was in this like giant master bedroom at this beautiful property on the edge of a cliff with a waterfall on it in Ecuador. And I walk up and he's in a towel because they'd all been in the pool being like acting crazy and having a fun time. And I thought he was lovely. Like I met him and he had like a confidence to him that I don't really find in most men, I feel like, or, well, obviously thank God for that now looking back, but I just felt like, okay, I can handle this. Like I felt kind of like we were level to level with each other. And, I found him more intriguing when I was in his presence. I was like, okay, this might be interesting. And he was cute. I thought he was cute. And he was very sweet and not like pouncy or anything. He just sat and like offered me a cigar and we just all kind of talked and chatted. And then I was like, I'm really tired. I'm going to go to sleep. So what's funny is this kind of comes full circle later, but at the airport in Texas, I was like searching for a book and I found, what was the name that I told you at lunch? Glennon Doyle's book. Untamed. I usually don't. I have a hard time reading self-help books, but her book for some reason like called out to me and I bought it. So I went to sleep that night and I didn't really come out of my room for 2 days, just a little bit, but I was kind of scared. So I stayed in my room and I devoured Untamed. And I was like, wow, I fucking love this book. And obviously I love Glennon. And it was just so cool to watch her be so raw and honest about her life and her relationship. And then I proceeded over the next 5 months to do exactly the opposite of that. And I mean, man, it was like, he started like being interested in me right away. The first thing I think he ever asked me to do was like, hey, do you want to come meditate with me? And I knew that he had been kind of hooking up with Corey. I just found that out when I got there and I was like, this is weird. Like he's with someone else. I felt like she was going to come downstairs anytime and like get her feelings hurt. So I was like unsure, but I trusted it. So he's like, come here. And he like had me sit against his chest. So I was like, had my back to him and we just had his arms around me. We were just like breathing together for like, I don't know, an hour. And my heart was just racing and didn't feel like calmed or like, you know, I wasn't in a meditation. I was in like, I don't even know what kind of mode. I was just like, it worked up.
Fight or flight?
Kind of. At the time, like I look back and I see that. But at the time I was like, oh my God, I'm just like attracted to him or I'm excited or I can feel some energy between us. Right. I could feel him seeing me differently. And I was like, oh, wow, like, I don't want this to be that kind of trip. So we started spending more time together and he started showing more interest. And then we started like going on runs together and it became more and more romantic. And like he would come into my room at night, like when I was going to sleep and he would light all these candles, like tons of candles around my room, like super romantic. And I hadn't had that in a long time. So it was like going from something that was like really hard to be in to someone that was like love bombing you. And at the time I didn't recognize that. I was just like, my soul was receiving water after having been in the desert. So he would like just be so romantic. We would eye gaze sometimes just laying on the pillow, just like looking at each other. And I was always scared looking back, but he kept telling me like that was some kind of distortion, like leaving my body if I could break through. So I was, but as that was happening, Corey was starting to get not so stoked that he was spending more time with me. And I was like, not trying to stamp on any toes. I was like, but he would have us sit in bed with each other, the three of us. And he'd be like, Corey, why can't you get over this with Jade? Like, why can't you see that like what we're doing is important and blah, 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 blah. And then he started to pick apart my personality and the group started going a little bit harder on me because I'd been there for a while. This was like probably been there a while. It's probably like day 4 or something, but it was just felt long. And at one point I came back from the store after having like shopped for the group for groceries. And I don't know, I was like talking fast and everyone kind of stopped me. And he was like, Ben looks at me, he's like, you're really hasty. And Corey's like, yeah, you're super hasty. The way you move, the way you talk, you're just fast. And Ben says, people that are hasty are hiding something. What are you hiding? What are you hiding from the group? So then what do you do when someone you like look up to is saying that? You look for what you're hiding. Even if you're not hiding anything, you're like, oh, fuck, I better go find something. Because you trust them. So you start to like release agency over yourself and be like, oh, because you can just see that everyone that's there is serving him. There's no one on his level there. Like he is top dog. All the women are like enamored with him and all the men are just like looking up to him and he has all the women there. Like no one really else is allowed to like hook up there. He's allowed to have whoever, but they're not. And I found that out because one of the days when I first got there, I was like, had really bad cramps, and this other guy had come up to me and he was like, hey, I can give you a massage, like your low back, if that, like, and it's not weird or anything. And so he went to my room and like really helped my back. And then Ben came up to my room after that and was like, look, if you're spending time with me, you're not allowed to spend time with other men. Like, this is precious and my time is so valuable and people pay a lot of money for this. So you cannot be abusing that. And so, you know, you have to look at this as like, I'm totally here to call myself out and be like, I've had a ridiculous craving for love my whole life. And I'm squaring up with that because when you have that hole and you're looking so hard to find it, you will find it. And it probably won't be the right filler. So when he started to say things like that, it felt so opposite of my ex and my past relationships in general, of like, he was like wanting to claim me. He like energy. And I was like very into it at the time because he seemed so pure and it seemed so innocent. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. You know, like if I'm going to be here for 7 days and you're going to mentor me, like that's fine exchange. So after that, I never really looked at anyone else. And I was like I could feel it. Like we had this kind of Harley Quinn Joker joke. And I thought that was kind of me and him at the time, but it was really, he said that to all his ex-girlfriends, I found out later. So, but that played a big part into some of the things that happened later. So he was always kind of just pushing me to my edge in that manner, like, oh yeah, Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn doesn't give a fuck. She doesn't feel her emotions. She's just like wild. And I had been so tired of being pathetic and just like waiting for love to like work out in my past that I was just like ready to just go in a different direction. So that kind of, I think, assisted myself in just like going down some bad paths. But I mean, how do you make a long story short? I really just got more and more entangled with him, started watching these distortion meetings. And at first I tried to talk back. And at that point, when they said I was hasty, they'd said, you can't trust where your words are coming from because you're so conditioned and programmed. And he started attacking my Instagram and saying that I was too much of a warrior on there. I was like toxic masculine energy, that I was then a victim as well. I was like, well, which is it? Like a warrior or a victim? But somehow I was like doing both at once. And then I started to feel bad that like, oh my God, did I lead a bunch of people astray because I was so dramatic? Or like, but those things were real to me. I mean, I'm a poet, I'm a writer, and I'd never seen anything wrong with it. He started like pulling up videos of my friends' poetry and like talking shit on it and being like, this is so dramatic. This isn't even real. The art that I showed him, he was like, this is fake. This is scripted. And he just started to like put doubt in my mind in like so many different areas. And everyone there, like the biggest thing I think is that you have to agree that he has your highest truth. He knows your highest truth over you because he's a pure mirror, he says. Like anything that you feel towards him is actually just a distortion or something inside of you. So you can understand how that gets really dangerous and confusing for people that aren't really like stuck in themselves and they meet this thing that they have to then agree. Like the whole group, if you said one thing and he said another, like you had to trust what he said. So I started like slipping into that path without noticing. And anyway, so the hastiness, they said the only way you can trust where this is coming from is you need to purge it. You need to clean it. And you're really behind on your spirituality. So like you need to really work double time to catch up because you haven't been listening to Ben's teachings and they're the highest teachings of all. So I'm like competitive and eager to please and a good girl. And like it went into my like Catholic school conditioning, like, oh, I can do this. Like, and his whole thing is like, who's more devoted? So when he said, I suggest that you take, and he's like, you don't have to do this. Everything is, you don't have to do this, but it's like kind of, it's put in a way that you do, you know, to stay in that sphere. I want you to stay like silent for like 2 days at least. And every time you have a thought, just like think of where you're coming from. So I literally went silent, like had my words taken from me. And it, in certain ways, it was like, I guess kind of pleasurable because I no longer was like subjected to having to be perfect so that anyone would say like, everyone just attacks each other kind of there. But it's not put that way. It's like, oh, I'm doing this for you. I'm trying to make you more pure, more healed, more healthy, more spiritual, more enlightened. So I was quiet. So then I was like, basically felt safe from the attacks at that point. And he was like, wow, baby, I'm like so much more attracted to you because you're just an energy so potent and like, you're not talking. And I should have been like, that's a red fucking flag. But I was like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So when the 7th day came and it was time to leave, my flight was like at 3 a.m. or something. And everyone started saying, like, when we had 2 days left, hey, I just remembered, like, when I first got there, my friend Drew died, and like I wasn't able to go to the funeral. And it was online, but we didn't have enough internet. It was like a really hard time. There was just a lot happening. So I didn't really get to process that. But anyhow, so on the 7th day, I was supposed to go home, and I was like very adamant, like, I need to go home. But everyone started saying, you're not leaving. Like, you're not ready yet. There's so much more to uncover and learn. Like, you just got here. Every single person. And so I started doubting myself, like, fuck, like if I leave, maybe I won't, maybe I'm skipping out on the chance because I'm scared. And they kind of put it as like, I don't even know, like later they called it spiritual high altitude training. Like, just because it's hard just means that are you too weak? So they gaslight your intuition. They gaslight your own sovereignty. They gaslight your own truth, essentially, and you trade it for his. So on that 7th day, like, I could have changed my life and I could have gone home, but I didn't. And I actually asked in the session, I was like, we had a session, and I asked the question, like, should I stay or should I go? And ironically, one of the teachers said, he like didn't even answer me. He was smoking a cigar, and then he started playing that song, should I stay or should I go now? And he's like, plays the whole song. And then he kind of pauses it in the middle at the part where it says, like, if I stay, there will be trouble. If I go, there will be double. And so I took that as a sign, like, oh, double, like this is where I can lean in and like do the hard stuff. And then at the end, he asked me, he's like, all you need to ask yourself is, what is source led? So like, meaning like, what would God say? And to me at that time was like, oh, commit to this higher, harder path. You might never get this opportunity again. So I stayed, and I just missed my ticket, and everyone was like cheering, and it was like really triumphant, like, wow, you made it. So I booked another ticket for like 2 weeks out after that. And that's when we started having more distortion meetings and kind of like seeing him lean into people more. And he started saying I had really healing hands, but then he would start to say like, well, no, at that point it was still light. It was still like largely amazing. And there was a point where he took me out into this garden and was like, hey, I need to tell you something. I've seen your blueprint. I've looked into your Akashic records, and your blueprint says that you have the coding for enlightenment. And everyone wants to hear they're special. Everyone wants to hear like, oh my God, I'm built for more. And especially with the juxtaposition of like other people tearing me down in my life, like it was like, oh my God, this person sees me. He sees me. And it felt like we could do really beautiful things for the world. So, what was I saying?
You're saying it was light and you'd booked your flight for 2 weeks later.
Oh yeah. He said, encoding for enlightenment. So he was like, I had read this part in his book where he talks about being a soldier for humanity, and like people that are moving the dial ahead for enlightenment, they're like a soldier. They leave their family, they leave their home behind, and it might get harder when they're out in the battlefield. You might doubt and you might want to go home. But what keeps you going is you'll see your friends and family when your mission is over. Like, you just have to keep the mission, and eventually it'll end. So when he told me that, I was like, I had this vision where I was like an astronaut, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not a soldier, I'm an astronaut, and I'm not meant to come back. Like, I'm meant to go be, what was that, Liv Tyler?
Bruce Willis.
Yeah, like where he shoves,
asteroid.
Yeah, he shoves the boyfriend in. He's like, no, I've got this. Like, I've always felt like I have that energy in my body. And I was like, this is my moment to like go in for something way bigger than I even imagined. I thought I was doing good work, but this is where I can have the chance to do things even greater. And there were like I said, really crazy red flags. Like at one point, Corey said, what if you could be alive at the time Jesus was? And I didn't understand, but like then I caught on, she's alluding to Ben being the same as Jesus. And she's like, what would the disciples have done if they knew what he was at the time? So then she kind of made me like, oh my God, I can be aware. I can be someone that drives the next big awakening. And it's embarrassing. Like, this is super embarrassing to say and admit. And like, you know, I tell people this story and they're like, how did it happen? Like, how did someone like you get stuck? And it just is a slow slide. And I saw this quote that really resonated with me the other day. And it said, like, you have to know yourself so deeply that when someone tries to tell you who you are, you laugh and it doesn't affect you. And I didn't. I had like made bad choices over and over again. And I have to sit with that truth that ever since my first boyfriend, that was lovely and amazing, broke up with me because I was like taking him for granted. I told myself I didn't deserve better. So I chose from that place from then until this moment now.
Mm-hmm.
And it reflects of what my self-belief was. Not my self-worth, because I would have said I felt pretty sturdy and strong. But it just is so clear to me that you have to know yourself before you get in a relationship, because especially I feel like as women, we naturally lean in to men. And I know a lot of people that are just so excited for love that they'll just like derail their whole path for that other person.
Yeah, this idea that if you're starving, you'll confuse crumbs for a feast.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my God. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely was doing that in the worst of ways.
Yeah, or it's like if you're desperate, right? If you're really struggling, if you're really in a dark place, then any sign of light is welcomed if you are not grounded in who you are and what you're doing.
Right. In survival mode, you make decisions you never would normally. And a droplet of water, you would kill a man over. Like if you were dying and you were starving, and I was on every level.
Mm.
So it was still pretty amazing. There were some, he just kept love bombing me and started saying like, but, oh, you can share me what?
Can you just describe, you're on the long distance love bomb podcast.
I know.
And just
why does it
selfishly, I was really upset when that became part of the lexicon in our culture.
I know. They stole
I was like, oh great.
They took it over.
My brand is now associated with this trauma-inducing bullshit. I had to change my book cover.
Did you?
Or my book title because of that.
No.
Yeah. I don't know if you...
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I have the original.
My book was going to be Long Distance Love Bombs by Jeremy Goldberg. It was like my brand and everything. Anyway, so I changed it. But so what's love bombing and why is that relevant to what you were going through?
So love bombing is when someone is a narcissist or narcissistic personality disorder or certain things like that degree where they're enamored with you. Like you're like shitting light. You can do no wrong. And it just feels like their energy just surrounds you. And they're like, oh my God, you are just better than sliced bread. Like I've never met anyone like you. And especially if like it's hard for anyone to kind of discern that's happening because we all believe like we all are there's people that are really amazing that don't get noticed. So when someone does that, you're like, oh yeah, I agree. Like this is true for me. But it doesn't mean that person necessarily actually means that. Right. So it's a tool of manipulation, essentially. And
so rather than a genuine compliment, there's an intention to deceive or control or dominate or manipulate.
Why in war do we bomb entire cities? Because then you have control. Okay. So it's pretty much like that, but it's emotional, mental, spiritual. Right. And I just kept seeing I kept saying to them like, why would anyone ever leave this group? Because it's so lovely. And you all love each other. And Corey would be like, I know I've tried to leave a few times and I always came back because I couldn't find anything better than this. Like this is the cream of the cream. Cream of the cream.
Cream of the crop.
Yeah. So I just,
And you're in paradise, you're in a beautiful house and you're surrounded by lots of interesting people.
Every morning, we would go out to fun dinners. I got to dress up like my past relationships. They didn't like when I wore dresses or heels or like took time on my hair, my makeup. And he was like the opposite. He was like, oh my God, like he loves fancy things. And like we both kind of had that same appreciation for just vibrancy. So I would go and like, oh my God. So I had actually packed my suitcase in an effort to not stay there with things I wouldn't normally want to wear long term. So I had brought like one cool dress. So I went to the mall. I like bought all these cool dresses. I bought these heels. And so we would go out and he would have me sit on his lap. If I was cold, he gave me his jacket. He would slow dance with me. We went running one time and he was like, if I still believed in relationships, you'd be my girlfriend by now. And it felt so real. Like I found this video the other day and I was like, this is so embarrassing. He was like filming me in the morning and I was in this bikini in this robe and I was like, baby. And he's like, oh, you're going to walk in this cute outfit to me. And I was like kissing him. And I realized that I was looking at something that wasn't what I was looking at. And I was feeling something that the other person had no intention of meaning. So it really now takes everything that was traumatic and makes it up an ante because you're like, oh, I thought at least I was safe with you. And I think one of the things that was most detrimental is he takes people that want to embody themselves and stand for something and be wild and like, and he seemingly gives you a safe place to do that, but it was like being in a lion's den.
It's not genuine safety.
No, it's opposite. I thought it was like, I believed. So I did things that I normally wouldn't, like at some points, like I could go word by word and all this, but I'm going to try and sum up some things because otherwise we'd be here forever. And there's just so much. But like when we went to my favorite place, I think when I was there, it was in Mexico in Puerto Escondido. And we were at this beautiful house and he always sequestered his girls. So like I always stayed with him and Corey and whatever other women were there with him for him, away from everyone else. So they didn't really see the like day in and day out of how we were treated, but they knew. But like, I think like my friend Keelan said, he's like, if I had seen how he was with you all the time, I would have been like, it probably would have woken him up sooner. But we were at this space and I started to feel like he really liked when we tanned topless. And so I started feeling safe enough because like it was just us around. But he would be taking these photos of us when I didn't know. And then he would like send them to our group and send them, you know, just at one point he posted one. And like at the time I still didn't want to hurt my ex. And I was still getting over a lot of that. And he posted this picture of me and Corey topless. And he put those like a little tiny sparkle on our nipples. And I had never done that on my own fucking page. So I felt right away like violated, but I didn't want to disappoint him. And I was like, he puts it in such a way that like you second guess. So you're like, oh, I'm just being prude or I'm just being like judgmental or I'm being whatever it is. And you just kind of gaslight your own fucking way out of it or he'll do it for you. So he was like posting this and he wrote something on it snarky and like posted it. And I felt really bad about it. And me and Corey just didn't even like the photo.
Who wrote something snarky?
Ben. Okay. He put it on his story.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was like, my heart sunk, my belly sunk. And I was like, oh my God, I felt so bad for my ex-boyfriend to see this. Like at that point, I hadn't really been out that like we were romantic, right. Much less like that. And the only reason he took it down was because he said, he's like, wow, I'm really thinking about how this is going to look for me. And if your followers see me posting this and you're not normally posting this, they're going to think that I'm manipulating you or I'm just coercing you. And I was like so grateful that he took it down. And it was just embarrassing. And like a bunch of people already saw it because it was up for a while. And then like there was another time where I was writing this email because he was like, oh yeah, you want to promote my stuff? Because I was saying like, he was like challenging my reality and saying that like, I'm not real. And when you think you're not real, then nothing matters. Right. So I was having this really, what was happening was I was disassociating like very deeply and very dangerously. So I thought I was happy, but I was just floating and I would just do nothing all day. I would like tan and then go for a beach walk and we'd have these parties at night, but I was just serving him, making sure he had the perfect amount of water, the right temperature for his coffee. Like didn't matter what it was. I was there to nourish him. And the older women of the group were like, your only job, Jade, is just to make sure he's nourished. Whatever that looks like, sexually, friendship-wise, on his calls. And I was like, what happened was my nervous system was always on fight or flight because I was panicked that he was unhappy and you wanted to make sure that he was at his most optimal. So after he posted that, I was going to post about his retreat. He's like, yeah, if you wouldn't mind sharing, like I've got this retreat. We have low signups as we usually have way more than this. Like it would help. So I was like, oh, I would love to. Like, he started saying that he should just, I was like, I don't even have anything to say on Instagram. Like my words are disappearing. He's like, that's so good, baby. I'm so glad. Like, he's like, my dream is to have a bunch of beautiful women walking around a mansion, just like, what do you say? Like empty and thoughtless and just kind of like blah. And he's like, haha, that sounds so bad, but you know what I mean? And I was like, well, that's kind of freaky. But I mean, at the time I was like, you just see all these other people validating his work. Right. And so you're like, I must be the one that's just so behind. I need to catch up. And he kept saying that. Like there'd be times where he'd be like looking at you. He's like, you're not doing good right now. Like you're behind on your spiritual work. So there was a night where I wrote an email thing. And like, I usually like to use kind of a shocking sentence to like capture the reader. So on my mail list, I was like, 2021 was the year that I threw my life away. And then I was going to say how like he helped me find it. And as soon as he read that first line, he was so angry with me and so angry with Corey because she had proofread it. And he was like, Corey, how could you let this slip? Because in Sedona, he had been running these experiments that he was having people be on like the master cleanse, which is like cayenne pepper and lemon water and I don't even like maple syrup or some shit. Only that for like 10 days or something, and having them like meditate in the heat and just really running people ragged. On the third day, there was a gentleman that was in his inner circle that stepped off a cliff and committed suicide. And after that, he ran and fled Sedona. And Sedona also, like, they do not fuck around. Like, as soon as that happened, they purged him. We're like, you're not welcome here. So he's been on the run ever since. And I didn't know that, obviously. But so he was really mad because he was saying that people were going to say that I was the next Brent, that I was being coerced and like threw my life away. He's like, that sounds like you're going to commit suicide and that you did. And so I was like, fuck, I got in trouble. Like, so you start to feel this like tug, you know, but it was still pretty good up until I left and I was like, hey, I think I need to go. My ex was actually hitting me up and he was like, I want to talk to you. I want to see you. Like, you're kind of freaking me out that you're staying there. Like, why are you not home? And I was trying to not talk to him because Ben was saying like he would convolute me, like he would sway me one direction. And I was gaining so much ground spiritually that I couldn't let him infiltrate me. So we talked a few times and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go home and visit my ex and get my apartment together. But Ben really put out there that like my ex was going to say anything to get back with me. And he was just speaking with like his penis, like not his truth. He's like, men, when they are losing something, they go into this, like what's real for them. They're like, I'll throw the kitchen sink at you, like anything you want. He's like, it's real in that moment. But as soon as you would go back to him, he would just be right back to where it was. And so it sounded legit. And I'll never know what would have happened if I had left. And maybe I would have like found some sense at that point. But I decided to stay for a little while longer. And then I was like so into him and so in love that I was like, look, I'm going to go get rid of my apartment. I had spent $5,000 for 2 months of not living there. I'm going to go give it up and move my stuff back home into my parents' house. And he was like scared. He was like, you know, not scared, but he was like, if you go to LA, you're going to lose everything. Like you'll slip and you'll hook up with your ex or someone. And like, I don't do that. And like, that's not allowed. And I was like, I am so in with you. Like, don't worry. I'm all in. Like, you have nothing to worry about. So I convinced him and it was true. I went home. I moved out of my apartment. My girlfriend saw me that had been like, you're going to have an awakening. They were like, you are the most vibrant, beautiful I've ever seen you. I was so genuinely happy at that point because he was still in his love bombing phase with me. Right. But when I got back, it all changed. And
got back with him after that trip.
Yeah, it was only like 3 days. I didn't even want to be away that long. But like there was just so many fucked up things. Like the moment I left, Corey sent a group message the next morning. I was in LA and I was so happy to be gone. Like, I mean, so happy to like, get my stuff to come back. And Ben and I were doing really well. And Corey sent this whole message in the group saying that I was gossiping to everyone and that I had manipulative tendencies. And she just wanted to do it out in the open so that like I could see how things are done around here. And I felt so like my nervous system crashed. I was shaking. I had to go see someone else that was in that group with me that happened to be in LA at the same time. And he was like, he helped me craft a word by word paragraph that was addressing all the needs. And he's like, he was saying like, Jade, you just need to nourish Ben. Like if Ben wants something, you just need to do it. And so, you know, everyone saw the same thing seemingly that I did and kept validating that it was right and okay. So when I got back, it just became this thing between her and I that she would just always have an issue with me. I was always hiding something or I was manipulating, and I just lived super in love with everyone. Like my heart is so wild and like she's just, I don't know, not like that. And she felt like the girl in high school that was like constantly having an issue with you. And sometimes you'd come down and she'd be nice. And sometimes you'd come down and she'd be like, you're the scum of the earth. And one of her favorite things to say to me was like, you can't even see the water you're swimming in. It's so disgusting. Like you can't see who you are. So I needed to trust her saying my problems, my ego, my distortions. And like, sometimes she would be really lovely and helpful. And when I would be doubting things, she was like, you got to stay in this, Jade. You have to decide if you're long-term Jade or short-term Jade. And like, I always want to be loyal and committed, you know? So I was always saying, and I'm long-term Jade, like I can commit to this till the day I die. Like devotion is my number one. I am loyal as fuck to a fault, and I found the wrong thing to be loyal to.
What would you say, just like play devil's advocate?
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, you met this dude,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're the jaded ex-lover.
Mm-hmm.
You met a woman, you didn't get along, and so you're saying that she was manipulating you.
Right.
Like, come on, Jade. Like, why are you being dramatic? Why are you blowing this
Right.
out of proportion? Like,
You know what I mean? I thought that because I got out of it and I was so spun out that I was saying that to myself.
Right.
I told him when I got out 3 times separately, we messaged each other, I love you. And he was like, oh, I was just sending you energy. And then I started to uncover all the other women that this happened to that were muffled, that were muzzled, that were just gag ordered with this NDA and afraid of him. Afraid of him. Like,
how did you find those women?
So I got out with Keelan. Like, Keelan and I kind of started formulating what Bentinho calls a bubble, and you're not allowed to do that with anyone. He's allowed to have bubbles, but you're not. So we would, he was saying like my energy was disgusting towards the end, and he couldn't be around me. So I isolated myself for the sake of him. I thought like, well, I don't want to hurt him, so I'll just go be off in the corner while I can get my like shittiness together. So Keelan and I started hanging out more, and we started just noticing things. And my friend that's still in it actually was saying like dropping little hints to me, and I had a call with her, and I was like, I'm like fucked up here. Like, I'm fucked up here, and there's a lot of dark shit that was happening. One night I was vomiting profusely, and I was just like sitting there, face in the toilet, like my body was just violently purging projectile, and I was so scared because I hate throwing up, and it's always been a way that my body communicates with me. And I was like, okay, listen, I promise you, body, like if you let me get out of this, like today, if you stop this throwing up long enough for me to buy a ticket tomorrow to LA, I will leave. And it stopped right then, and I was able to go back to sleep. But my friend Jocelyn, she described this as like the vagus nerve is so attached to your nervous system that when your body is in fight or flight, like it actually can trigger those kinds of things. But I came back, and Keelan didn't really know everything that had gone on because he didn't have a romantic relationship with him, obviously. And it was like we were always sequestered. And we kind of started feeling for each other and like leaning into each other. And I was so fucked up. I felt like a drug addict. I was like just trying to feel my own heart, just trying to like breathe. I would lay in my bed and stare up at I have this like hole in my ceiling. And I would just stare in the dark hole and just be like, that feels like me, over and over again for hours, for days on end. And so the only thing that helped me was my friend that had got me out. Finally, I was like, did a call with her. She's like, are you okay? Like, where are you? I was like, I'm out. I don't know what to do. And I thought at the time, I started thinking maybe I should go back in because like no one is going to be able to, I can't relate to anyone anymore. I feel fucked up. Like maybe that's the only place that'll take me. So I considered going back. And she told me, she's like, no, you need to talk to Jocelyn. And I was scared of Jocelyn. And like when I got there and I first started posting about Bentinho, she sent me a DM just like you and was like, hey, she tried to do it really smoothly, but like, you're not allowed to keep secrets there. And I was like deep in it at the time. And I was like, oh, Jocelyn sent me a message, and they had me read it out loud. And they're all like, oh yeah, this is what she does. This is her MO. She's just trying to get the mission.
And who's Jocelyn? She used to be associated with him.
Jocelyn dated him like 4 years ago, I think.
Okay.
Or she's been out for 4 years. I'm not sure.
When you say been out, that means like
exited the community.
Gotcha.
And there's only one way really that you get out. Like when you exit, you don't typically go back in.
So when you say you got out, that means you left, you bought a flight and you left? Yeah,
I did. I started feeling like shittier and shittier. And like when I was throwing up and I told Ben the next day, like, I need to leave, he was like, oh no, Jade, don't worry. You're just being a loud horn for the group. And your body is just telling us that like, we shouldn't stay here much longer. But he proceeded to keep me there for like over a month. Keep all of us there in this like compound in this really shitty place.
Keep you there in what? Like, why couldn't you leave?
Well, at that point, I wasn't making money. I couldn't.
You felt trapped.
I couldn't speak. I couldn't talk. I was like empty. Like when you think reality is not real and you think you're not a real person and you're told that nothing matters, you just don't care about yourself anymore and you're just fucked up. I was just like an empty shell of a human. And he So I had gotten this email like a month prior, and my friend Dave Morin had asked me to go to Esalen at one point and teach the death meditation, which Esalen is like a really beautiful, world-renowned, gorgeous yoga retreat center in Big Sur in California. And his wife had emailed me that she was doing an event with Gwyneth Paltrow, and they were doing this like women's group, like retreat.
Right.
But
What we just talked about.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So I hadn't seen that email because I was just gone from the world. And then I got a DM from her husband, was like, Jade, what are you doing? Like, you're missing out on a big opportunity. My wife's trying to message you to come teach the death meditation at this like all women's event. What's happening? Like, what's going on? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. So I looked at it, and then I was scared to bring it up, but I like brought it up at dinner because it was like such a big deal. So I was like, I wasn't even going to go, but because it was who it was, and like, just seemed like such a good opportunity, and something I would have any other time in my life would have been like, oh my God, this is huge. This is the biggest moment of my career. I was scared because I knew he was going to say no. So I brought it up, and he was like right away, like, I was like, I don't know if I should go. And he goes, everyone was like, if you leave now, you can lose. It was just the same thing. Like you can lose your progress and you're already behind. But I was starting to have these weird feelings. Like, I just need to get away for a little bit. And I wasn't saying that out loud to anyone but Keelan. So I just told him, I was like, hey babe, like, what if I go make a name for myself there so I can get you there? I'll go put my name in and I'll get it for you. And then he was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's a great idea. Like, you should totally do it, babe. Full support. So I left, and at first he was like he wanted me to like get a round trip. Like, okay, well, when are you coming back? And I was like, I think I should just get a one-way ticket. Just for now, I'll be back. Like, I had to promise, like, not promise, and he didn't make me do anything, but it's just like, are you high altitude training? Like, are you going to give up on this mountain, this climb? Do you have what it takes? So really, that really saved me. And
so you went and led the training, met a bunch of rad people, and then decided not to go back?
Yeah. So I at that point, like, well, it's a really complicated story, but there is something specific that I want to share, and then what you're asking me. One night when I got back, when it started to turn bad, I was watching this Harley Quinn Joker, the Suicide Squad, prior. I like was in love with it back then. And then we would all go to dinner, and then he had said earlier in the day about one of the girls, he's like, oh, this is funny. You've been in here so long that every man here has either slept with you or seen your tits, or hooked up with you. And I had this thought when he said that about her. I was like, oh my God, thank God that's not me. Like, thank God I'm just with him, because I would just feel bad about that. Like, I would feel like, whoa. I didn't tell anyone that. I just thought it. So then later after dinner, I like set up the whole thing with the candles, and everyone came over to our house for a party. And he comes over. I walk over to him, and I'm about to sit down. He's like, baby, come here. Like, in front of, like, holds my hand, like looking at me. He goes, I want you to take off your clothes. And I'm like, oh my God, like right away, just my stomach just drops. Like, I would never fucking do that. I've never done that. I would never fucking do that. And he's like, right now. And I'm like, right now? Like, in front of everyone? He's like, yeah. And he's just like looking at me with this power. And there's like 8 guys there and like 4 women. And they're all just staring quietly at me. And I'm like, fuck. So then what goes through my head first is he says he's psychic. So I'm like, oh my God, he psychically heard what I said about the other girl in my head, of like comparing myself. I'm like, oh, thank God that's not me. So I was like, fuck, I deserve this because I was talking shit in my head. And the second thing is, well, I still have some doubt left over after that, but he's my highest truth. He knows that what's best for me, even when I don't, even when I can't see it, even when I disagree. So I did it. I took off my pants, and I'm staying there in my underwear and like hoping that it was like a tiny thong. I'm like hoping that it's covering what little it can. And everyone's just staring at me, and like some of the guys kind of look a little uncomfortable. Some of them are just down with it. Some of the women, same thing, but no one said anything. And I just decided, like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. So like my survival tactic was like, I'm gonna turn myself into Harley Quinn energy. and I'm going to want this is for me. So like from the outside, I asked my friend later, like, what did it even seem like? He's like, it seemed like you loved it. And you don't want to look weak because then you just get taken down. So then he's like, okay, take off your shirt. And I just paused and he's like, now. And I take my shirt off. And I'm staying there in a bra and underwear. And I'm like covering myself. And he's like, come here. And he sits me in between his legs. So now I'm facing out and the men are looking at me. And he undoes my bra. And he just moves my hands away and starts fondling me in front of all the men. And I'm just like looking at you, how this is. And like all these men, all these women are just sitting there. And I'm just like taking deep breaths, being like, I want this, I want this, I want this, I like this. But no part of me did. And I really feel shitty because I look back and I like really deeply betrayed myself. And I did it because I thought it was like the spiritual path. And that kind of brings me back to the point of like why we're here, because I need to apologize for leading people to something that is so detrimental and dangerous. And there's people that are my students that like then went in because of my email, because of my endorsement, because of my association. And I will never take that lightly again. And I also found out that like he's asked women to do that before, but they've all said no. And that really like made me have a pit in my stomach. Like I was the one that was stupid enough, had no self-esteem enough, like whatever enough to do that. So now I'm here. And there's a ton of this story that, again, like I'm leaving out a lot. But I got out and my friend says, you need to connect to Jocelyn. And I was afraid. I had blocked her. Like Ben was like, oh, I really appreciate you doing that. Like that's devotion right there. Like you're committed. You're all in, baby. Thank you. Protecting the mission. Also, last note, like there was a night in Costa Rica where he told everyone that I was attacking him. I was an STS. I had been infiltrated and he couldn't breathe and he was going to get killed. And so I had to run across I was like hyperventilating, crying in my room because I thought I was like attacking him, trying to find it within my field of fucking being. And one of the women, I had to go to her room and she had to like calm me down and give him meditation and like try and find the thing inside me. It was like, you know, the part in the Matrix where like trying to extract the bug in the belly, but you're like looking for something that doesn't exist. You're looking for this impurity. And so I go and tell Jocelyn, I'm like, hey, I would really like to connect with you. I'm kind of having a hard time. I'm out of the circle. If you ever feel like you would forgive me enough for blocking you and blocking you out to talk to me, I'd appreciate it. So she jumps on a call with me right away. She was so amazing and so kind and so loving. And she gave me this specific, at that point, like I had nothing. I was still confused about what it was and about if I had fucked up. I just didn't know. And she clarified so much for me about the abuse that she went through, about the abuse and like domestic violence that he put his ex-girlfriend in front of everyone through. Horrendous stories that are so hard to grapple with because all of us are looking at this like, we need to say something. We have a moral obligation. And that's what Jocelyn and all of us kind of linked up and realized. Like we have a moral obligation, regardless of the NDA, regardless of the fear, regardless of how scary it is and how embarrassing and fucking, like, I don't want this in my career or in my life or even in my history, much less to go on and say it in front of everyone. But so I talked to Jocelyn and she helped me a lot. And she was like, but she wasn't, like, we didn't continue talking. She was like, look, I'm glad to be out, but I'm like trying to move on with my life. So like, I'm here for you, but I'm not interested in like kind of really continuing this conversation or like talking about them. I'm like moved on. And I don't blame her because she had gone out and come out against him and tried to say something, but because the NDA was so vague that I was able to like, and he posted something like, oh, sweetie, remember this of her post, and he batted her away. So I went in because I thought like, oh, she must have lied, because people don't believe women. Like the first thing is like, why did it take you so long to talk? Or what? Oh yeah, sure, you're trying to get a buck or this and that. So people don't say anything. They just die with that in their body, and it bleeds out onto every area of their life, their children, everything and beyond. So Jocelyn was helpful, but I still was like floating. And then my friend that was in there said, you need to talk to Jacqueline. And Jacqueline was his previous girlfriend before me that he supposedly said he was going to marry, that he was going to have kids with. And I was most scared to talk to her because they had all told me she was crazy and that she was like, just went nuts, that she went like psychotic. And so I was like, fuck, are you sure I should talk to her? And like, yeah, don't worry, she's lovely. I get on the phone expecting this like batshit crazy woman, and she was so grounded, so beautiful, so put together, so fucking pure and lovely. All these women that get spat out are amazing individuals that now think that believe on some level that they're tainted because he's told them so. And really it was like an effort to control. And I ended up finding out that he convinced her to give him an insane amount of money, which I won't mention how much on here, an insane amount of money to prove her worth, like to prove her all-inness with him. And there's all this common theme that like he manipulated us by love bombing us with something that he wanted. And for me, it was my following. He wanted some specific people that I follow that he had said like, oh, I'm going to date her and she has a couple million followers and I'm going to just take her followers and just add them over. Like he just admitted out loud to using her and wanting to use her and wanting to use everyone. And I just missed it. But I want to just say sorry. I want to say sorry to everyone that I let down. I don't even feel like I have time to set the score with myself of letting myself down because like I really feel this comes first. And maybe it comes at the same time, but like I am so sorry to anyone that I told he was a lovely human being, you included, and like gaslit your intuition. And all my friends that reached out and were saying these things, like my friend Allie used to call me and be like, oh, how's your colt? How's your colt? And I used to be so irritated when she said that word. And now I realize because it was right, because she was true. Or she was right. It was true. And I'm just sorry. I'm not healed. I'm probably not even at a good place to share this all the way, but like I have to speak out. I have to set the record straight. And I have to set my foot in the ground and like reiterate that like this cannot continue. We can't keep letting these spiritual gurus, like no one is your fucking guru. And I wanted to start this brand after because I was like, what is this? I'm heroless. Like no one is coming to save you. You have to be that person for yourself. You have to stand up, put your fucking feet on the ground and trust yourself so fucking much that if anyone comes in your sphere and tries to tell you otherwise, that you are so rooted, you know the difference. And you trust that. Even if, and especially when there's so many people around you that are telling you the opposite. And I feel like I see that out in the world right now. And so it's really disorienting to get out of something like this and come into an ungrounded world where everyone's on polarized sides. And, it's just like so hard to find your footing. But I also like lost my job in that I had for 15 years. I also got threatened from Instagram to lose my account. And so it just feels like one hand clamped over my mouth after another. So thank you for being one of the ones that isn't and allowing me to just have agency. And like you've said 2 questions this whole time. Like I have just ran with it. And I know that's like a lot of gaps in the story, but he terrorizes people and their nervous systems are so shot that people are committing suicide. People are getting spat out and then lost. Like I am so lucky that me and my friends that got out and now are like joined forces that we are strong enough to have found each other first off, but to have gotten out of this. Like I was thinking today, like, fuck, if I was Jocelyn and I was out of this by myself and he had come against me and then all of his followers turned on her because she didn't say any specifics, I don't know if I would be here if I was her, because it's so painful to be called a liar and to make money when you're just depleted and fucked up. And we all went on a podcast that should probably be launched by now. Can I say the name?
Sure.
A Little Bit Culty with Sarah Edmondson and Nippy, who were in the Nexium Sex Cult. And you actually did a podcast with her on here. recently, and it's just funny how everything is matching up. And then
Yeah, because you texted me a while ago and said, I've connected with this woman, Sarah Edmondson, and I'm going to be on her podcast. and I literally a week before had her on my podcast.
So wild.
And I was like, oh, Sarah's a homie. Like, we're pals. She wanted to recruit me to the sex cult. And,
yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, it all happens in weird and fortuitous ways.
I mean, the only reason that we're here is because she did the vow, and then Jacqueline found her and sent her a DM, and like, this is unheard of, but like Sarah like wrote her back and was helping her and giving her therapy recommendations. And then Jacqueline was like, you guys need to watch the vow. Like, this is a cult. You don't see it. And she even, we're all still like worried about hurting his feelings and worried about hurting the people that are still in it.
Right.
And I just want any of them that are listening to like really sit down and separate yourself and look at things objectively if you can, and just say like, what if I'm wrong? Kind of like you're saying, like, just devil's advocate yourself. Like, what if you are wrong and this person is not who he says he is? And one of the last things that when I was like, Keelan and I were putting shit together and being like, whoa, maybe this is not what we thought. Corey said, do you guys realize that Bentinho is the same enlightenment level as Jesus Christ? And me and Keelan were like, what? And then we like left her and we were like, that was crazy, right? And he's like, yeah, that's crazy. I was like, yeah, that was what? And then she texts us. She's like, actually, you guys are funny. Now that I think about it, he's even more enlightened than Jesus Christ. I mean, this person, I can't even say what I actually want to say, but it's bad and it needs to be stopped, and people need to be reminded that their voice fucking matters. And I would rather die with the truth than live with a lie for twice as long. And I just needed to come and say that. And to say that I'm committed so deeply to truth. And it feels so seductive to be in that space after so long of feeling like, it feels like my tongue, the muscle died, and then I like cut it out. And then he like erased that I even had one. So you're not even looking for that muscle. So yeah, that's a nutshell. I think that's enough traumatization for everyone. And hopefully that wasn't. And hopefully if you are in something like this, you recognize that this can happen in relationships, in friendships, in organizations, in spiritual communities. And what's sad is like you look back and you realize that everyone was just seeking something deeper. Like their hearts are in the right place. And some of the worst crimes in history have been proliferated because they think they're doing the right thing. And so a part of me, like a large part of me, doesn't fault them for that. But this is a person who tortured cats as a child, who there's so much. Like if you dig and you look, there's so much there, and it's hiding in plain sight. So the moment someone asks for your free will, red flag. If you didn't know. The moment a lover asks you to give up part of yourself, like your identity, your soul, for me, that's a no-go. Like that person should be saying, let's go, let's do more. And that's ultimately what really did save me, was having Dakota and Allie. Dakota had devised a plan because he knew, like, look, she's not going to leave by me saying, get out, this is this. She'll dig her heels in more. So he devised a plan, had all my friends come to LA, even had Allie fly in. And Allie's usually in Kauai. So she was in town and they were tagging me and FaceTiming me. And I didn't have my phone then. I was just like floating around like a freaking empty shell. And I got back to my phone and I see that all my best friends called me, and I see me tagged in all their stories, and they're having art nights in Topanga, actually, where we are. And just like my friend Richard on the violin, and Dakota dancing, and Brian Ellis singing, and Allie doing art, like poetry. And my soul ached, and like art wasn't allowed there, really. And I just found my way back home. And it was like my friends like left me breadcrumbs. But if you don't have that, I don't know if you'd be out. And I just want to poke a hole in that and let people know there is like so much hope for you. And just because you haven't found that group doesn't mean you need to settle for something because you're afraid you'll never find it. It's like the hero's journey to trusting what you're here to do and what you want and the standard that you're looking for. And I've just lived my whole life with crumbs because I was like, oh, this is better than nothing. And then I would convince myself, and I really would love that thing. But I didn't love myself. And I did love myself, but it required me to forsake myself to have that thing every time. Mm. So my work now is like, how do I heal that? Like, how do I go in and trust myself? Because when you get out of something like this, you don't have any of your same healing modalities. Like every way that you used to reach for, you don't believe in any of that. You're afraid. You don't believe in God. You don't believe in a higher power. You don't believe in the universe. You don't believe in yourself. You don't believe in all the ways that I had access that were tools to me that I would have swore were something, were just gone. And you don't trust, you're afraid. And I'm afraid of people now. I was running yesterday 5 miles in this hike, and I had my headphones in, and it was this beautiful song I've heard a million times. And it starts really slow with like electronics, and all of a sudden this guy goes, I loved you. And it starts like really loud. I fucking screamed and whipped around. My whole body fell. Like my nervous system just tanked and crumbled. So I have a far fucking way to climb. But the first place I'm going to start is at the truth. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Anytime.
Appreciate it.
How are you feeling in this moment after saying all of those things?
I was on Sarah's podcast 2 days ago, and we went through like a lot of the gory details. And I feel today kind of numb to it. You get tired of living in that like reality of being lost at sea. And it's so hard right now to try and provide for myself with no job and just my Instagram, like the death meditation that I sell. The classes are so, we were talking earlier, like retreats and classes aren't selling like they used to right now. And Instagram has like cut down my views and all these different things. So I can't even like provide for myself on a basic survival level. I had to move back home with my family. And I just live in this childhood bedroom of mine, feeling trapped. And like, I'm so grateful for them, because if I didn't have them, I would not be standing here today. I don't even know. I'd probably be on the street, literally, or be back at the cult because I had nothing left. So I just feel like, after I finished that podcast, like full disclosure, I called Keelan. I was crying on like the 2-hour drive home from LA. And I was like, if anything happens to me, I want you to make sure that this podcast gets out. And he's like, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. And it's very rare that I hit that vein that I hit and I talked to you about in the first podcast. Like, I want to die. But I did. And I know now, like when I hit that vein, it's just me communicating with myself. It's just me saying, hey, look, you want to live so bad that your body is screaming. But I needed someone in that moment. So I called him, and he talked to me the whole ride home. He's like, it's going to be okay. You're going to find yourself. You're getting back to yourself. But it's just so important when you're getting out of something to be very careful with like not betraying yourself in any fashion, like going to a party that drains you, or giving a friend like help when you don't have it yourself. So I don't know. I'm just trying to make it through every minute by minute. Dating is impossible. Like, I feel so, it's just not the time, like I need to like wipe that out and just focus on myself, get so sure of myself that I can, forgive myself for all of this. I don't know, Jeremy, like if you asked me or told me like I'm going to be in a cult in 2021, I would just have laughed at you. Like I laughed at you when you told me I was in one in 2021. But I'm lucky to be out. I'm lucky to have my wits about me. I'm lucky to be strong enough to try and tell this story, to have friends that I've made that have like now really helped me and been there for me. And like when I got out, I was like an abused dog that was biting people it shouldn't. And my friends Dakota and Allie, like I really just cut out everyone else. Like I needed to have people that I tried to trust. And if they ever were like, late or they couldn't hang out, like I was destroyed and I would be so mad at them and I'd shake and cry and like lash out at them, and they knew that I was like fucked up. So they're so patient with me and are still patient with me. But I don't know. We'll see where this leads and where this takes me. But if you're listening and for any reason you need hope, like focusing on hoping that there was hope was how I did this. And Matt Kahn says this thing. He says, like, the moment you realize abuse is happening, you have a one, like, streamlined responsibility to be anywhere but that. Friend's couch, in your car, doesn't matter. You need to get the fuck out of there. So I feel like I did that. And I'm slowly still in that. Hopefully next time we talk, I'll have something cool to say.
I mean, you had some cool stuff to say.
I guess.
Just now.
I guess.
And yeah, may I offer a perspective?
Oh my God, please.
I just want to acknowledge you. I mean, this is brave stuff. This is big stuff. And it's important stuff. And you're not running away from it. You're leaning into it. Right? Yeah. And you're doing the work. This is it. Right? You alluded to like climbing the mountain. It's like, this is it. You're already healing. You're already forgiving. You're already accepting. You're already owning and taking responsibility for your life and your actions. Like, it's underway. Yeah. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're on the path. You just have to stay on the fucking path.
I know. And sometimes I'm the queen of like a left turn into the bushes.
No, just stay on the path.
I know,
like,
I will.
If you get tired, just sit down and rest and take a bath or stare at the ceiling for a day. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
And just beginning to honor you and what you need.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, I really appreciate that, because you can lose focus. And like, am I in the valley or am I on the, like, going towards the peak?
Nobody knows.
I know. You never fucking know. And I mean, now I'm scared because I'm like, am I even seeing what's real now? Now I like really have discernment, which is actually a good thing for me because I was so gung-ho. So I feel like it's going to balance me out. Yeah.
And your nervous system has been so activated for so long that the idea of intuition has to be
rebuilt,
relearned, etc. Yeah. And it'll take time.
You're so right. I like have lived in fight or flight. Like the other day I was trying to sleep and I just felt my body, my atoms were like tingling with fear. And it's a really bizarre feeling. And I feel like I have PTSD. And, but I want to say another thing that was like really fucking hard was not being able to write and not being able to go on my Instagram and be real time with things. Yeah. And not knowing, like, should I protect my past relationships? Should I protect Bentinho? Should I just put this behind me? Like, it's so alluring to just finally get on with your life. And that's why so many people have, until we finally got together. I'm like, we need to stand up to this. Mm. So it's been really disorienting because I've had to kind of look happier than I've had to look at all remotely happy and okay to sell things on Instagram. And like, I oftentimes wasn't in that place. And I think it's really hard for creators and influencers and people that do this as a living. And you're required to show up if you sell a container, but if you're not in that space that day, like, you've got to find it. And it wasn't necessarily like a lie. Like, I was real with everyone, but I just I've been playing with 1% for so fucking long on my battery. And I'm ready to let these things out in the world and to speak my fucking belly like I used to. And I'm working out now again. And like, I was really sick in the summer and I was the weakest I've ever been. Couldn't even do a push-up. Like, I've always been able to do that, no problem. And my trainer has me doing 300, like a sled push with 300 pounds on it. I'm doing box jumps. Like, my knees aren't hurting anymore. Like, I'm just taking better, slower, more meticulous care of myself. But there's like an unbound energy that's growing. And I realize that being in relationship with someone that it's not working. It's like also not even working. It's like going the opposite. It's like draining you. You're draining each other. Yeah. It's like wearing a 40-pound vest. I used to train with this 40-pound weighted vest and do box jumps and like all these crazy things. It feels like I've been living that way. I feel like a lot of people have been living this way and like not in their soul truth or purpose or alignment. And it feels like I took that off and I'm taking that off. And my stomach has been bloated since I left because I've just been sitting with the truth. And you said something really cool at lunch. I was like, my body's betraying me. And what did you say? Do you remember?
It's not betraying you. It's protecting you.
Yeah.
It's giving you messages and insights.
Mhm.
It's saying like, yo, listen to me.
Right.
Look how fucking bloated I'm making us. Pay attention.
In pain. And that's a perfect example of how you can like demonize yourself after getting out of this, because you're like, you don't know what to trust, not even yourself.
Yeah, I mean, another way to phrase that would be you're betraying your body.
Right.
Your
exactly.
body is not betraying you.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I'm like, I have to be around people that I trust and not opening myself up to too many people's opinions and ideas. Even though people were so thoughtful online, like, you can talk to me, you can hear, but you can't trust anyone. Like, there was a girl that went to the retreat that reached out to me because I kind of posted some like ambiguous stuff, and she was like, I was really fucked up after this, and I couldn't even tell her like, I'm so sorry, I see you, because I had to protect this until it was time to make the right move. And I want to say sorry to her and to everyone else and to the girl who replaced me that's now there and he's living off of or whatever he's doing and sucking her soul out. Like, you're going to hear this probably and you're going to think, oh, that's just her. She's crazy. They probably told you I'm too emotional and I'm so distraught from this and that. But like, it's not that. Like, trust yourself. True love doesn't require you to abandon yourself.
Amen.
Amen.
Anything else?
No.
That's a good place to
feel
stop.
like that's a good sword to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I give you a hug?
Yeah, I love you so much. Thank you. Vanny was just precious.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
All right, that's Jade Alectra. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the 5-star reviews. If you are new to the podcast, there's over 150 episodes. Check them out. They will have people that you know and love and adore, particularly if you follow people on Instagram. If you haven't heard the first conversation that I had with Jade, go back and listen to that one. It is the most downloaded episode of all of them. And thank you for being here. Thank you for bearing witness to her truth and for supporting the podcast. If you know people that need to hear this or that would benefit from these words and this conversation, please do send it along, share it on social media. Every little bit helps to spread the word, to make a more conscious and compassionate collective, helps to make kindness cool. We're all in this together. We can support one another and try to make the world just a little bit better than yesterday. If you have never heard of me, I'm Jeremy. You can find me everywhere on the internet at Long Distance Love Bombs, including on Instagram. I have an email list. I send out a weekly newsletter. And I host events and retreats all around the world. So welcome to the family. Good to meet you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for everything. And I will talk to you soon.